Hi viewers, in this video I will show you how I replaced the accessory drive belt on my Jeep Patriot 2.4 liter equipped with air conditioning. First, I made sure the vehicle was safely jacked up with the transmission in park position and the parking handbrake applied. I also used 2 jack stands and 4-wheel chocks to secure the working area in order to be able to work safely under the vehicle. At first, to gain access to the power steering pulley easily, I had to make some room to work. I unscrewed the retaining nut that held the coolant reservoir. The plastic reservoir was simply relocated on the radiator for the time required to remove the old drive belt and install the new one. To prevent any coolant spillage during the job, I secured the reservoir with a bungee cord. Note, a week earlier, before replacing the drive belt, I did inspect the pulleys and they were all spinning properly. Also, because there was no oil or grease showing on the side of the pulleys bearings, I decided to order a new drive belt without the pulleys kit. To continue working under the vehicle, the engine splash shield had to be partially removed to gain access to the rest of the pulleys. I began by removing the fasteners adjacent to the bumper and some other ones under the engine on the right hand side. Finally, to be able to lower the engine splash shield, I had to undo 2 more fasteners located in the wheel well. With these components removed, I was able to gain access to all the pulleys and the drive belt. On the right, you can see the air conditioning compressor pulley, and on the left, the crankshaft pulley. Because it was too difficult to film and show the side of the engine behind the front frame structure, I made many illustrations to show the positioning of the belt on the pulleys during the routing procedure. Many people would use a belt tensioner tool, but in this occasion I had the room and I used a good old offset box wrench as shown. I positioned my wrench on the tensioner adjusting bolt and I turned it counterclockwise. In this video clip, I show how much angle I needed to loosen and remove the drive belt from the air conditioning compressor pulley. I made sure to hold the wrench firmly to complete the first step without problem. After, when the belt was removed from the pulley, I slowly released the tensioner adjusting bolt. For the next step, the wrench was not required because the belt was loose enough to be removed by hand. To complete the procedure, I found it easier to remove the belt from top to bottom. When the old drive belt was completely removed, I compared it with the new drive belt and it was the same model. To be able to insert the belt between the front frame structure and the engine, I used a long yellow rod on which I added a custom hook. The rod was inserted from the top and lowered down near the crankshaft pulley. Using the left hand, I placed the drive belt in the hook and, after, with my right hand, I pulled the rod upwards to position the upper section of the belt near the power steering pump pulley. Because of the engine configuration, I found it easier to begin the routing installation with the power steering pump pulley. To make sure the belt would not get out of this pulley during the routing procedure, I used a small plastic clamp to hold it in place. To continue the installation, I went under the vehicle and I routed the belt between the pulleys number 8 and number 9. Note, the space to work was quite small and there was not a lot of room to move my hands. After some wiggling, the belt was fitted around the water pump pulley number 7. When it was properly seated in the grooves, I continued around the pulley number 8 and after, I maneuvered the belt to fit it around the pulley number 6. I completed the forward installation with the routing around the pulleys number 5 and number 3. Before fitting the belt on the last pulley, I used a small weight on the lower section of the belt to keep it in place while I was removing the small clamp previously installed on the power steering pulley. The belt was well positioned and I was ready to complete the installation. I removed the weight and I used the wrench to retract the belt tensioner. I rotated the tensioner adjusting bolt around 90 degrees counterclockwise to get enough slack to be able to fit the belt around the last pulley. After, when it was well seated, I slowly released the tension and I took off the wrench from the tensioner. The belt seemed well installed, but I made another inspection to see if there was anything to adjust before putting back the coolant reservoir in place. Since the belt installation was fine, the coolant reservoir was put back in place and secured with the retaining bolt. After I started the engine, I looked at the accessory drive belt and it was spinning properly. The test was successful and the belt installation was completed. Following that, the engine splash shield was refitted and all the fasteners were installed. To complete the work, the wheel was put back in place and the vehicle was lowered to the ground. The torque for the lug nuts was set to 100 foot-pounds. The drive belt replacement was easy to do, but even if the procedure looks simple to carry out, it's very important to fit the grooves of the drive belt properly on the pulleys. A bad installation can damage or tear down any new drive belt.